Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Here with me is Sandra and she's gonna share her recovery story. We're gonna talk about her background, her journey from the restriction to then eating disorders and then recovery and also where she is today. So Sandra, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for doing the interview with me.
Yeah, I'm very excited and I know it's going to be so helpful for so many people. So let's get started. Like maybe you can start by sharing your background and how everything started with you, like from the childhood and onwards.
Okay, basically I first started dieting. So I remember dieting until when I was like 5 years old, 4 years old. Like as long
Mm,
as I can remember, dieting and like the talk about diets and food was a big thing. So I started my first diet when I was 5 years old.
mm,
Basically. I started to restrict at that age, and it kept going on until I really decided to do recovery, which was in 2020. So I was around 26. Um, and yeah, it was just such a long journey of doing so many different diets. And I feel like I've done every single diet under the sun. And every single time I felt like now this is going to be the time I'm going to finally manage, having my dream body and living this dream
mhm,
life. And this is going to be the answer to all my problems. And it never happened.
mhm,
And this is why I'm here today, because a lot of people say, well, but have you tried this? Have you tried that? And
mhm.
I've never felt successful doing all these diets, basically. It never felt like I was happy in my body, even though that was the promise every single time. So, yeah.
And why did you even start to diet at that young age? Yeah, what happened?
I remember my parents talked a lot about eating, what food is right
Mm-hmm,
for you. My parents were like constant dieters as well.
mm-hmm,
Um, I don't think they're happy with their bodies either, to be honest. And it was this constant talk on the dinner table. And we also had like kind of like eating times. So we
mm-hmm,
were allowed to eat in the morning and in the evening. And in between, if you were eating, it would always be like, well, we're going to have dinner soon. You shouldn't eat now. And you should watch like what you're eating. And I think as a child, you're really susceptible to that.
mm-hmm,
So I just started taking on all these beliefs about food. And I also felt maybe self-conscious. I wasn't a confident child. So for me, it
mm-hmm.
was even easier to take on all these beliefs. Like I felt like I wasn't good the way I was, so I had to change something about myself. I was really scared of being an outsider maybe and not fitting in. And I felt like I put on maybe a bit of weight, or at that age you don't really know, right? But you just don't feel comfortable. And I just felt like what my parents say is the truth, and I need to do what they say.
Yeah, it sounds like yeah, you have been through a lot and so since young age and then to your teenage years, do you even feel there was a shift to an eating disorder or the lines get really blurred?
I remember like, so I started dieting when I was 5 years old, but I think at 5 years you're not really knowledgeable about like you're 5 years old.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I slowly just started to eat less because I understood eating less is better. And eating less is going to make me lose weight. And then when I went to primary school, I actually got bullied. So I was really happy to come to primary school. I was super excited. And then I got really strongly bullied by all girls in the class. So there were just two girls that didn't bully me out of a class of 20 girls. And that was really kind of what started it, I think. I started to feel really self-conscious. My mum would put me in these big sweaters, I think because she felt like I was a bit chubby too, maybe. Like hiding my body and everything. That's when it started, I think. So I started to stop eating. Maybe it was also the stress, but I would literally just stop eating. I'd go to school, they'd sell like rolls in the morning, and I'd always decline. I'd be like, no, I don't need anything. And when I was 8 years old, I think my body just couldn't really handle the stress anymore. And because of not eating in the mornings, I felt sick and I started to throw up. And my best friend would come with me to the toilet and she'd not realize why I was
Mhm.
throwing up. She just thought I'm literally sick. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I think that's when it really started. And
Mhm.
from there, it was just like the cycle, the typical cycle.
And I remember like from our initial like call and everything, we talked about the fact that like you were never underweight or you didn't look like you have eating disorder. Of course, somebody doesn't have to look to have a problem. But I guess like what was it like for you? Like people didn't realize you had a problem, right? Or yeah, tell me more about that.
So I think when I came to fourth grade of primary school, I was quite skinny. I think at that point, people noticed that something was a
Mm-hmm.
bit wrong. But after that, even though I continued to diet, even though I did every diet under the sun,
Mm-hmm.
I actually was always like a bit more feminine,
Mm-hmm.
especially like at 13, 14. I got wide hips and nobody really thought I was like I had an eating disorder. Sometimes people would tell me you've lost a bit of weight, but I was not one of these, these super skinny girls in school. I wasn't like that later on in my life ever
Mm-hmm.
again.
And when did you realize that like you have a problem, or maybe you already knew all this time, but I guess like yeah, like when what was the turning point for you? Or
I think when I was 10 years old, a friend of mine started telling me this is normal, like you should just
mm-hmm.
eat.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to listen to her, but the talk everybody else was too strong. The information I got
Yeah.
everywhere else was too strong.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at 17, I got my hands on a book of intuitive eating and I really tried it. But the problem with that was that there was no real guidance. I think deep down, to be honest, I always knew there was some sort of problem. I knew it's not really right or normal to live like that. So at one point, I just felt like it doesn't really make sense. I'm doing all these diets and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
happy. I'm not maintaining my weight. I'm always fluctuating, and all the other girls that I know are just eating what they want and they maintain their weight and they're quite happy with it. And that's when I
Mm-hmm.
started to think, is the problem with me? Initially, I thought it was me. I thought something's wrong with me. I thought I'm just doing everything wrong. And eventually, I got my hands on a book of intuitive eating, but it was not a good guidance. It was more, it was not meant for people with eating disorders. It did lead me in the right direction, but it was not really fully there.
Sorry, we had to do a little bit changing the location for the connection to be better, but we can continue here. So you were talking about the book Intuitive Eating, and then what happened? Like, yeah.
It was a book about intuitive eating, but it was not really targeted for people with eating disorders. I think there needs to be a clear distinction about this intuitive eating, which is meant for people with eating disorders. I think people who've had an eating disorder need different guidance for sure. And so it didn't really help me long term. I just felt like I was binging. I felt like I was
Mhm.
overeating, and I didn't understand why can I not be a normal eater. So I really tried to work on the problem, and I was aware that there has to be a way to eat what you want and being happy and everything. But this was just not the right guidance for me.
Yeah, my recovery also started with intuitive eating. Like somebody shared their journey about like eat whatever you want and stop all restriction, like which is all good. But as with you, I didn't learn about the extreme hunger and how actually you may feel that like the cravings get worse for a while and everything, and stopping exercise and other aspects of recovery, and like making sure you're eating enough and everything. So so how then you were able to like what happened next? Like you found the book Intuitive Eating, but there were those things that didn't apply. And how did you then start your full recovery, and what needed to happen for that?
So after that, I think so I had been through anorexia, and then I think for a long time after that, I was like, sport needs to be the answer. So I started overtraining. Because that intuitive eating didn't work, I went back into the cycle and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Hey, overtraining." I started to work out really hard, but it was not working out to have fun about the movement too much. A
Mm-hmm.
lot about it was like, I have to go these days because I need to work on this issue. And then I developed orthorexia, so I was only eating the healthy, good foods. And again, I ended up at square one, which was I'm still not happy. I'm still restricting. I'm still not happy with how my life is. And I just got really tired of it. And I was like, I'm doing all this work and I'm still not happy. And I stumbled across your content on YouTube as well, which I was so happy
Mm-hmm.
about, because you were one of the few people that were saying it's okay to eat over your hunger. It's okay to eat what you want. It's okay. It's not, because I feel like some other people on the internet still talked in about recovery in orthorexic ways. So they'd
Yeah.
say, well, yeah, recover, but this is
But
still good, this is still
mm-hmm.
bad. And it just did not help me because I was really craving the chocolate, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. I really
Yeah.
wanted the chocolate. It was impossible for me to eat something different than that because I've always
Mm-hmm.
restricted chocolate. It was always a big topic for me. And your content was like, well, then just eat it. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
big issue. Just
Mm-hmm.
have the food, enjoy it, and just it's okay. And extreme hunger is normal. And that was when I finally 2020, I was around 26. I was like, okay, I'm gonna just do it. It's a promise to myself. I'm just gonna commit to recovery. I was in and out before. A couple months before, I was like, this sounds interesting, but I was too scared to make the final step to say, I don't care anymore about the way I look. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like sometimes dieting has to get so bad
Yeah.
that we just realize if I continue to do this, I'm either gonna kill myself or I'm just gonna
Yeah.
be entirely unhappy. And that was
Mm-hmm.
what made it clear to me. Okay, I can keep on doing what I've been doing without success because all these diets are kind of like the same. They're like the same
Mm-hmm.
in a different packaging. So I thought I can do what I've been doing, which
Mm-hmm.
and expect different results, which is
Yeah.
the utter definition of stupidity in a way,
Yeah.
to say it like
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly. Or
Mm-hmm.
I try a really different way, which is actually different and not just the same
Mm-hmm.
thing in disguise.
Yeah, for me as well, it's like my turning point was kind of similar when I realized that, like, yeah, I may feel triggered. I may feel like anxious about my hunger or a weight gain or whatever. It's like, yeah, there's always an option to diet and restrict and eat a little bit less and everything. And I had done all of this. And I came to a point when I knew 100% certainty I will be back to the binging, feeling out of control, wanting to get rid of this problem again. So I'm like, I can try it one more time, 100 more times. It's still not gonna work. So I might as well try it. The only thing I have never tried, and this is like to eat without restriction. And actually, when I, heard about other people talk about it and kind of understand the biology about it and how it started to make sense, it was like, yeah, like when I would starve myself, I would binge, therefore like have extreme hunger and everything. So it made sense to me as well. So I'm like, I might as well try the thing I haven't and see what happens, because otherwise it's like I am dead anyway. So it's like I might as well try something different because I don't want to keep living like this. Sometimes, yeah, like things have to be really bad to finally do something different. So you started your like the recovery and like eating the chocolate and everything. So like how was that process for you, and what was the hard parts, and also some successes you saw, and yeah, how long did it took? Or
Um, so at first, I think for a lot of people, it happens that you just feel freed at the very first
yeah.
stage, right? You're like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna eat what I want, and you're like, I'm gonna eat what I want. So you
Mm-hmm.
go to the fridge, you go to the shops, you buy the chocolates, you
Mm-hmm.
lie in bed, and you're like, wow, like I'm eating what I want. It feels
I'm
amazing. And
recovered.
then yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you're like, boom, uh,
Cool.
I'm feeling full. This is
Yeah.
unfamiliar, and you
Mm-hmm.
get scared.
Yeah.
And I was super scared in recovery. I was super
Mm-hmm.
scared because all my life, this is all I knew. I grew up
Mm-hmm.
with that diet talk from ever I was born, probably. So I
Mm-hmm.
had my first diet when I was 5 years old. So we're talking about 20, 21 years of just dieting, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
even longer. And you might think because that's been all my life, it's not possible, or it's not possible for me. I always
Mm-hmm.
had bad luck. I got bullied in school, and all
Mm-hmm.
these like beliefs came. And it was super hard at the start. And then Corona happened at
Mm-hmm.
that time too, as everybody
Mm-hmm.
knows. And that was super hard because I went back to my parents and it was the
Mm-hmm.
constant like, I want to eat what I want versus I need to listen to their diet talk and I need to listen to their comments about my looks. And that was the one of the hardest things I've ever experienced, to be honest. It
Mm-hmm.
was just insane to get through that stage. But I knew what I was doing was right at that stage in a way. I just knew it in my heart. I just knew it's the only way. So I kept doing it, and I remember going to the shops and almost secretly, because I my parents really shouldn't have seen this,
Yeah.
secretly
Mm-hmm.
buying like the big Milka chocolates
Mm-hmm.
and eating one after another. I ate like
Mm-hmm.
2.5 per day on average of the big
Mm-hmm.
ones. And it felt extreme. It just felt extreme, to be honest. I was like, oh, I'm eating a lot. And it didn't stop for a long time. So the Milka chocolate bar phase lasted me a few months, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. And it just felt like this is not gonna stop. I'm not gonna manage it. I'm just gonna turn
Mm-hmm.
into this
Yeah.
massive blob. But it was so far from the truth. And the main thing that helped me was rewatching your content or
Mm-hmm.
other people's content, reading about the subject, reading about people who made it. Because there
Mm-hmm.
is a lot of people that have made it that talk about it too. Not enough, but there is. And that helped me get through and push through every single day.
And you talk about them, the extreme phases of like eating the chocolate and many months in a row and everything. And totally, it's like, yeah, like when you're in it, it seems like so extreme and so bad. And since you don't know when it's gonna end, you're like in it. You're like, I don't know, like is it 2 months or 2 years? Like who knows? But it's like at the same time, like we forget that we have been through extreme deprivation as well. Like you have been like what you said, like 20 years or something. So like just remembering the context and the past we come from, not just seeing that I'm eating Milka chocolate bar in isolation. It's like, no, see the whole context. Like that's why, this helps you to kind of trust your body and see the logic behind it. But so you did the recovery and responded to your hunger. What were the, I don't know, the positive things you started to experience, or yeah, like the progress you made, or
So basically, although my diet was considered not healthy, not good, which is also a thing I was really scared of. I was really scared of getting sick, that I'm hurting my body. But on the contrary, like at the beginning of recovery, I did have this fatigue. A lot of people
mm-hmm.
experience. I was really tired. I was sleeping, but it came to. I still felt healthier in a way, but it got to
Mm-hmm.
a point where I just felt like I had all this energy and I've never felt energized in my whole life. I just remember being kind of feeling like tired and lazy from when I was a kid. I was not
Mm-hmm.
really feeling a lot of things as a kid. I
Yeah.
think this was like a starvation symptom because my body was also growing. I think I've
Mm-hmm.
damaged my body back then quite a lot. And when I started recovery and I went through recovery through that first fatigue stage, I just had I felt like I had infinite energy, which is
Mm-hmm.
something I've never experienced, to be honest. And I still have this energy now. Of course, like it fluctuates,
Mm-hmm.
but I went to the doctors, I had checkups, it's all good. Only thing is like vitamin D, which is kind of like a thing for everybody, I think, in
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and
the
that's the
northern
thing with
hemisphere.
recovery. It's like even when you fully recover, like you're not immune to like other illnesses, or I don't know, getting a flu, or whatever else, or stressors, what can happen and also affect your body and life. It's like that is normal. So nobody expects like you to be fully recovered and have perfect health. And yeah, like vitamin D in our climate, it's like quite common, vitamin D deficiency. It's like I even
Mhm.
take some supplements like during the winter time. So yeah.
Yeah, but I felt 100% better. Also, like the constant thoughts about food. That
Yeah.
was also quite annoying. Like, you can't go out, have a nice day with your family, or
Mm-hmm.
you can't go have a nice day with friends and like eat dinner. You just can't because your brain's always like, ah, did I eat too much? Did I do this wrong? This is
Mm-hmm.
not what I should eat. Ah, what's in this dish? Can you please
Mm-hmm.
explain to me? It's stress. Like you just don't want to go out and eat. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not a nice experience. Or any day, like you always plan around the day to
Mm-hmm.
fit this diet. It's very, very, very restricting lifestyle. And what I
Mm-hmm.
also experienced, that all the stress was gone, and I could just be like to my friends, hey, let's go here, let's go there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up also like being the person who'd go to a restaurant and order two mains at the same time. And the
Mm-hmm.
waiter would
Mm-hmm.
look at me and be like, you're not going to finish that. And I just finished it.
Yeah.
And it was
Mm-hmm.
so much freedom, all the amazing
Yeah.
food, all the fun you have with people, the stop of the
Mm-hmm.
thought, the energy you have. I
Mm-hmm.
would never trade that ever again. I'm not relying on caffeine all the time. I can get up in the morning and the coffee is optional. It's just a different feel in my whole body.
And you were talking about the food thoughts, and I remember when I recovered from eating disorder and finally realizing like, oh my God, I don't have the food thoughts, or it's like I can focus on my day and do other stuff and not think about food constantly. And but for you, it all started when you were so young. So was it almost like the first time ever in your life you experienced what it's like to not have the constant food thoughts? What was the big shift like for you?
Yeah, it was like I said, when I was a kid, I was not even like a super energized kid. And I just remember all my life was food thoughts. So this was entirely new, and I was shocked at the start. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, I feel so different. But it
Mm-hmm.
was a good thing. It was like when all the benefits that I was hoping for were finally kicking in, and they were even
Mm-hmm.
better than I thought they would be. Like I think when people talk
Mm-hmm.
about recovery, they always talk about this weight gain, and
Mm-hmm.
I understand, but that's a big part of that is the eating disorder speaking, because it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay to gain some weight. It's
Yeah.
okay. Like my
Mm-hmm.
weight still like, even though we have the set point and people think they
Mm-hmm.
reach the set point and then that's that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my weight still fluctuates
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I don't really put too much attention to it, and
Mm-hmm.
like being indifferent to that is also a
Mm-hmm.
big benefit because I'm not dependent on my mood's not
Yeah.
dependent on my weight.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the set point. It's like the set point actually is a range, and some say it can range from 10 to 20 pounds, which is like, yeah, and it can depend on stress levels or hormones or time of the month, or it's like, yeah, it's not a specific number. But also it's like your recovery shouldn't be dependent on like a weight because you have still life ahead of you. We don't know what's going to happen. Like I can gain weight due to whatever reason, so it can't be a marker of my recovery. So it's good to accept your body like no matter what, and not be like even like focused on it. But tell me, I know like so many people, they struggle with like the weight gain and recovery symptoms, and like tell me more about this, like the mindset you have now about your body or the body image, or how do you deal with all of that, or do you get ever triggered, or any thoughts, and how do you manage, or how do you deal? What has changed? Yeah, I know it's like a big subject.
It's great. I'm happy to talk about it. Basically, when I go see my parents, I know it's gonna get a bit triggering because you sit
Mm-hmm.
on the dinner table and it's about food and what you should eat, and
Yeah.
oh, I made the food and it's really healthy and this
Mm-hmm.
and that, and they're not happy in their bodies either. So I just try
Mm-hmm.
to remind myself, well, I can take the advice, but I don't want to be where they are. Then I'll also do the B license for fitness training at the moment, but the reason
Mm-hmm.
is because I like the gym and I
Mm-hmm.
train intuitively. But when
Mm-hmm.
I go to the gym sometimes and people start talking about me about these things, like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people have the diet mindset. I just try to escape the conversation, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Mm-hmm.
triggering. So things like that can still be triggering, but I
Mm-hmm.
just try to feel my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm doing the right thing. I made the decision in 2020. I can't
Mm-hmm.
go back on that decision, and it's reaped me too many benefits for me
Yeah.
to go back. One big thing that maybe also helps is like comparing my life or anybody's life prior to recovery and afterwards, once you've
Mm-hmm.
recovered for a longer time. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go back into stressing in the morning. I don't
Yeah.
want to go back not being able to take place in social events normally without stressing. I don't want that stress anymore. I don't want to go back to that life. So I just let the trigger I let the feeling just pass. I feel it and
Mm-hmm.
I know it's gonna pass. And it's normal to get triggered sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sometimes means some things might not be resolved.
Mm-hmm.
So if I
Mm-hmm.
still get triggered, then that means there's
Mm-hmm.
some part of me that's still scared of something, or that's still
Mm-hmm.
there's still some sort of belief inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I need to still work on something.
And you were talking about like being triggered, and I totally agree. Like we can be triggered. It's not necessarily like a bad sign, but I think like the progress is measured more about like are you able to then shift your focus to what's more helpful? Are you then gonna keep doing the the pro recovery action or positive action? And I don't think like being triggered occasionally or sometimes like it's like a marker of like, oh, I'm still in recovery or still eating disorders, eating in an eating disorder, because like you are human. You're gonna continue to be a human, and it's like it will be so frustrating when you go to your parents where you're supposed to feel safe and you want to relax and not have this stress, and it's still there. Like it's like I can't
Yeah.
imagine like being in this environment, and I would you know be upset as well. And it's just like you are human. So yeah, triggers are not unnecessarily bad. Maybe it's like a reminder to keep on. It's like it can be like in a way for you to become even stronger, right? So to learn to take triggers as a like okay, a reminder back to what's truly important, and it can only make you stronger in time. So maybe that's the lesson they are meant to teach you or whatever, like at least seeing it this way as like how can I benefit from this instead of like how it's gonna make my life harder. It's like a better mindset to have. Okay, so maybe you can now tell me about like how are you today? What has changed compared to, I don't know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Yeah, are you fully recovered? Yeah, describe your current life and relationship to food and
Well, I think it's awesome. It's such a big difference to how it was. I've heard people say they don't really recognize me anymore as a person because I think intuitive eating is it's not
Mhm,
just about the eating or like
mhm,
well, intuitive eating in terms of like not dieting at all, no
mhm,
restriction at all. Um, I think it also changes your whole life because first of all these stresses are gone, the stress about the eating out, all these stresses are gone. So you make space for other things, you can explore your passions more, and you also get back. But like it was like that for me. I got like better connection to myself. Like I started
absolutely.
to feel like it is right for me because with real intuitive eating, you need to start to listen to yourself. What do I like?
Mhm,
What do I want? What do I like to eat? How much do I like to eat? When do I like to eat? Do
mhm,
I feel hungry? You really need to listen to your body and to your psychological hunger and to trust yourself. And I think it's really inevitable for this trust to spread out into other environments. So I started to trust myself more in terms of what I want to do for work, what I want to do in terms of friendships. I started selecting my friends more carefully. So from when I started to now, it's like a whole different life. I'm not really
mhm.
entertaining toxic people anymore as well. Like I think that's all kind of a side effect of the start
Yeah,
of intuitive eating. Yeah, yeah. Is that
yeah.
normal actually?
Yeah, like
Or
I'm honored to be, witnessing so many people's recoveries, and so often I see like the progress is made not just by, recovering your more hunger cues or relationship to food, but since, the eating disorder affects almost all areas of your life because of the obsession it takes, the behaviors it takes and everything, it can affect your relationships to like your health, your career, your goals, what are your like daily focused on. But then if you recover, it also affects all parts of your life. So sometimes I see people leaving relationships, changing jobs, moving to another country, I don't know, starting like spiritual practice, or it's like discovering something else about themselves that they were like, oh, before I didn't even notice about this myself. Maybe I had it in childhood, but since I had this eating disorder, I totally lost that connection. So they get actually better connection and start to discover like what they really like, and I see like that's a huge positive marker when recovery doesn't just translate to the eating, but actually other areas, because this is what it's really about. And then, yeah, I think like it's like very common symptom of somebody like, yeah, like you are truly fully recovering. You're not just like, yeah, I'm managing my eating or managing the eating disorder, but you're truly like transforming.
Yeah, and what you said about managing the eating, that's also like a big
Yeah.
part, isn't it? Like you think you're doing
Mm-hmm.
like I thought I'm doing recovery, for example, and at the start I was still like trying to manage certain things,
Yeah.
or when you got a phase of eating more, it feels scary, so you still try to find ways to eat a bit less. That was
Mm-hmm.
like I think at the start for me a bit of a problem to still try to
Mm-hmm.
manage it. It's like that
Mm-hmm.
control that we tried to have. But now I'd consider myself luckily fully recovered.
How
It's
does it even
exciting.
feel to say it? You know, like sometimes people feel like, oh, I don't know if I should say it because maybe it's too early or something. But it's like, yeah, like you can fully celebrate. As you can see, there are so many things that have changed. So it's not just like you imagining it. It's like even your friends are noticing like the difference. So congratulations. Huge. Yeah. I'm
It's
so happy
awesome.
for you. It's like you were like
So,
reborn in a kind of way. Like, yeah.
uh, yeah, it is. It's like a different
Mm-hmm.
life, and thank you so
Mm-hmm.
much too, because like your channel was like one of the
Oh,
channels.
thank you.
Yeah, because some channels still talked about this healthy, unhealthy, and you were like,
Mm-hmm.
well, just
Yeah.
eat the darn chocolate.
I had orthorexia, that's why.
Yeah.
And I tried to recover with orthorexia. I didn't know it, but it's like, oh, healthy eating, but make sure you're eating enough. Make sure you stop purging. Make sure blah blah blah. But it's like, yeah, I was still restricting by restricting the types of foods I was allowed. So that's huge.
I think
Yeah.
it's not only about the calories and the macronutrients, it's about like
Yeah, of course.
feeling the psychological hunger as well. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
so many people say, "Oh, then eat to fullness, do this, do that." But
Yeah.
if you just want chocolate cake, maybe it's time to just eat chocolate cake. Like the
Yeah.
psychological hunger is just as valid as the physical
Yeah.
hunger. I
Yeah,
believe.
absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's not about the calories because even the recovery calorie guidelines, like they can maybe start somebody's recovery, like making sure you hit those minimums, but you can also restrict with those minimums if you don't allow yourself to eat to full hunger. And full hunger is, yeah, like physical, mental hunger. And also not just getting full physically, but also like mentally satisfied. And for at least like for me, getting satisfied took me to feel very, very, very full for a good while in recovery. But this is why it
Yeah.
worked. So don't confuse fullness with satisfaction. Like satisfaction is like entirely else. And this is why eating exactly what you crave is so important, because if you don't hit those like the satisfaction, I don't know if you can recover. Yeah, you have to hit the satisfaction. And this is why like eating chocolate, all that is like necessary. But over time, those cues will normalize and everything. And yeah, you're not gonna be this extreme eating for the rest of your life. And you would just feel normal and less food thoughts and
It's
yeah.
also what you said about we got to see it in the context. So we see now we're eating so much, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like if like we've always felt hungry for years, we
Exactly.
both want to feel full and
Yeah.
overly full sometime for
Yeah.
the body to realize, hey,
Yeah.
it's okay. And also for the mind to catch up, like,
For
hey,
sure.
I'm probably really full now. Like, I think it's okay now. And I
Yeah.
remember being so physically full and my mind's still going, but I want that
What
cake.
else can I
Or
eat? Yeah, and that is so normal as well.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
scary at that point. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
like
But
really eat so much, like thousands
yeah.
and thousands of calories. But
Yeah.
there will be the day sooner or later, and it will be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I'm actually full and I want to go do something else, not
Mm.
just sit all
Mm-hmm.
day and
Mm-hmm.
shove
Yeah.
in. The day might. It will come. It will come differently for everybody, but also for me, that didn't mean that I will stop. Like for me, one big problem was that prior to recovery, I thought I'm gonna do
Mm-hmm.
recovery and then I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
have this healthy,
Yeah,
balanced way
yeah.
of eating.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Mm-hmm.
one big. That was actually a big problem for me,
Mm-hmm.
um, because it didn't happen like that, and
Mm-hmm.
I like certain foods. Like I've mentioned
Mm-hmm.
cake and chocolate so many times, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Mm-hmm.
I
Of
still
course.
like it. Yeah, and it's not like I
Yeah.
get up and I have this like healthy breakfast with
Yeah,
avocado. Sometimes
yeah.
I get up and I have I have
Yeah.
cake.
Mm-hmm.
I just get up and I have some cake, and some people might see
Yeah.
that and be like, "Oh, cake in the morning, like how gross."
Yeah.
But I
Mm-hmm.
sometimes want to get up, have cake, and I still
Yeah.
do that. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
I'm recovered, and everything
Mm-hmm.
now is like how you see it in the books. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
also
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Instagram and YouTube influencers that what I eat
Mm-hmm.
in the day, they
Mm-hmm.
were so misleading for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like not of ED recovery coaches, not these ones, but more
Mm-hmm.
like these ones where like breakfast, like a slice
Yeah.
with avocado toast and all these things.
Yeah.
It just never happened for me. It was this ideal in my head that I had to reach,
Mm-hmm.
and it just didn't happen. So for people that are in recovery, you might still like
Mm-hmm.
chocolate cake after recovery. It
Yeah.
might still be a thing. Or you might stop liking it. Nobody really knows, but whatever you end up
Yeah.
liking, it's okay. It's not about fitting into somebody's definition of eating.
Ultimately, it's about listening to your body and your hunger cues and cravings, and it's like the like people don't realize like the unconditional permission is not just for recovery, it's for the rest of your life. Like I have unconditional permission for the rest of my life to eat whatever I want, whatever quantity. Like the mindset will continue forever. So it's like, and however that will look like for you after recovery, it's like personal, and it is how it is. But of course, like like the eating disorder side of it and the obsession and like that will vanish. But the food, how it looks like, it's like it actually doesn't matter. So for the ending, like how what would you recommend maybe to a person who can resonate with your story or maybe to yourself when you were a teenager or that little girl? Um, yeah, what would you recommend them to do or focus on or
There's one thing I feel like I've not touched on. I really want to touch on,
yeah, yeah,
which is kind of like, and which is relates to the question as well.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like not believing everything. Like people are going to tell you to do this, people are going to tell you to do that, and life is only fine if you live it like this, and
Mm-hmm.
this is wrong and this is right. Just no. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that was one big thing for me, and because like I said before, I've changed my whole life around. Before I did
Mm-hmm.
chemistry and biochemistry, and that was one thing I really wanted to touch on is like I
Yeah.
was sitting in a module about metabolism and metabolic disorders already in recovery. And
Mm-hmm.
for example, the lecturer was talking about macronutrients, how they're digested in the body. And then he said, wow, and if we take on more nutrients, more energy than we need, then the body got a system that gets switched on, which just turns it into heat. And then he went on to talk about diets.
Yeah.
And for me,
Yeah.
it's like, you're kind of missing out this whole subject, which would be so interesting to talk about because it's
Mm-hmm.
like incredible what the body can do. And a lot of people, when they're in like having an ED, are experiencing like
Mm-hmm.
feeling cold all the time and so
Yeah.
on. So that a whole like
Yeah.
metabolic adaptation if you
Yeah.
eat more eggs. And we just didn't talk about this. And that's when I started to
Yeah.
become really critical and be like, well, you got PhD and more, a
Mm-hmm.
postdoc, and you don't see through that because you've been manipulated to some extent all your
Mm-hmm.
life. You've been told
Mm-hmm.
that this is the way that we should
Mm-hmm.
maintain a certain weight. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I was like, I'm doing the right thing. So it's like not taking everything everybody says so seriously because we're all humans, we're
Mm-hmm.
all prone to error, we're all prone to
Mm-hmm.
manipulation. What is
Mm-hmm.
considered a general truth doesn't have to be true. So it's really
Mm-hmm.
important to be critical. That's
And
like
what
one
is
big.
true for you, for your experience? It's like sometimes it's like maybe that's their experience, but if you apply it to yourself, you're gonna have an eating disorder. So.
Yes, exactly. Like
Mm-hmm.
also like being individualistic, like this might be your reality, it's not my
Mm-hmm.
reality. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just not doing it like you do. And it's fine. It's fine, we're different. And so that was one big thing. And yeah, another big thing is letting go of control. I think
Mm-hmm.
our lives are based a lot about trying to control the unknown. And I think an eating disorder can be an expression of that, because ultimately every diet is something of the same, and every diet to some extent doesn't really make sense, because one is just restricting carbohydrates, one is restricting fats, and what you're just doing is you're depleting your body of a macronutrient. Let's say I go on a low calorie diet. It just means basically it's a diet low in fat, but my body needs fat. And vice versa, if I just cut out the carbohydrates, it's going to be problematic as well. So it's all kind of sort of the same. It's not going to help long term. It's going to lead to binging. Everything you restrict, like for me, everything I restricted, that was the thing I craved in the end.
And you binged on anyway.
So if I was restricting fats, it would be like eventually I'd binge on the fats. If I was restricting carbohydrate, eventually I'd binge on the carbohydrate. Like it just doesn't work. So that's one really big thing. And so it's kind of like this sense of control that we all have. We try to control the future. We try to control the weight. We try to not have any hardships in life and be safe. I think that's a really big part of just embracing the unknown, because ultimately in life we don't really know what's gonna happen. Like we think we know, but we don't know. Anything can happen anytime. So it's really important for people to like embrace the unknown, and to have the courage to just make the decision and go for it. And yeah, if I met my younger self, I would have just said, listen to yourself and not everybody else. Listen to your intuition. And that's what you say in all of your years as well.
Yeah, listen to your intuition. Yeah, it's like my account is not about like listen to my intuition, but it's like actually I want you to learn to listen to your intuition, and also it applies with food, and actually it can translate to other things in life and everything. And also it's like the intuition concept and everything. I wish that in the book they would talk more about the fact that extreme hunger after restriction is intuitive. Many people think intuitive eating is just eating moderate, balanced, whatever. But we have talked about the context so many times in this interview, and remember the context. And in recovery context, listening to extreme hunger, having the bloating, having weight gain, having you only want to eat chocolate. It is very intuitive. So yeah, something to think about. But yeah, anything else you want to share as we finish? What do you think?
Basically what I might still want to say is that it's important to just make the decision, have the courage to make the decision. And I really didn't regret starting recovery, and I think most people don't regret it. If you go through recovery, you go all the way through, it can be one of the best experiences of your life. And if you just don't make the decision and always keep going back to what you know, it's like an uncomfortable hell is sometimes preferred over a comfortable or great heaven through the struggle right now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I totally agree. I am so glad you are now at the other side and you can share with others, and yeah, so thank you again so much for doing this interview, and I would be interested to see people's feedback and everything, and we will stay in touch. Yeah, so thank you so much again.
So much. And thank you so much for the work that you do. Keep on going, like you're helping more people than you think, and it's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.